most of the time change is forced upon us. Change happens, as Forrest Gump should have said. This sort of change, big change that is done to us, can be really tough. It can rock our world and throw us off balance. We undergo a roller coaster of emotions from denial through to depression before our head finally acknowledges the change and our heart then accepts it. And I discuss this in great detail in a separate video. You see, all change is emotional, and our emotions are 4 times more powerful than logic. And each of us erects our own personal barriers to change, and they're all emotional barriers. And I've identified 6 key emotional barriers. So as I go through them, work out which ones that you automatically erect. And these 6 barriers are denial, emotions, fear, something I call engagement fatigue, identity, and the last one being our thoughts and beliefs. Let's have a look at each one of these. Let's start with denial. It's a common and natural reaction when change is forced upon us. The need to change is often staring us in the face, that the future's approaching, we can see it coming, but we just don't know what to do or how to confront it. It's just too uncomfortable. We don't really want to confront it. It's too real, it's too hard. So often we kid ourselves. I mean, frankly, sometimes it's just easier to be an ostrich. We've all done it, and we've all seen people doing it. It's stultifying, it's harmful, it can be unproductive, and yet it is completely normal. That's denial. The second one is our emotions. Now, they can either get in our way or get us on our way. Sometimes they can overwhelm us, as we know, and they can rule our behaviors and our actions. But they can also be used to help us. They can be used to motivate us, to actually spur us into action. Fear comes in 3 main forms. There's fear of failure, there's fear of blame, and there's fear of the unknown. Now, fear of failure is a key reason why we all resist organisational change. We see it in business all the time. It's also why we don't quit to open that bar in the Bahamas we've been talking about for so long. Fear of blame, you will see, is a resistance to new ideas by someone who is afraid that they might be blamed for not having changed earlier. And you will see this in organisations frequently. The third one is fear of the unknown, and it's an evolutionary fight or flight mechanism is where it comes from. But it often manifests itself as fear of others. Yeah, we're inherently tribal animals. We're social beings. We all need to belong. But in business, this can be dangerous. We need to be vigilant because internal tribes can form in the blink of an eye. We can have one marketing team against another. We can have one sales team against another. We have marketing versus sales. We need to be really careful that these teams don't develop. We need to watch out for it, because the moment you feel yourself descending, or you see others descending into internal tribalism, step back from it, because there's only one tribe, and that's the entire company. The next one is engagement fatigue, otherwise known as doubting the vision. Or as an American CEO once described to me, it's like, Cam, they're just not buying what I'm selling. I mean, if you don't believe that the change is going to be worthwhile, that it will deliver the forecast benefits, then obviously you're not going to want to change. And if you are to change, you have to want to change. There's a really bad joke that I put into the change catalyst, which is how many social workers does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is 1, but the light bulb has got to want to change. The next one is identity. And weirdly, this is another potential and serious, significant barrier that can prevent us from changing. How we view ourselves, our beliefs, whether our job or position defines us, the tribes we identify with, they can all serve to prevent us from adapting or adopting new behaviours. And the last one is thoughts and beliefs. Often the biggest barrier to change can be found between our ears. The human brain has somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative. This, again, was once an evolutionary necessity, but these days we need to realise the negative thoughts are just that. They're only thoughts. They aren't real, and they're probably not even true. They certainly aren't us. And we need to learn to simply observe these negative thoughts without judgment, without agreement or argument, and just let them pass by. So that's the 6 main emotional barriers to change. Let me just now run through very quick tactics for overcoming them. Let's start with denial. For denial, the first step to overcoming denial is to admit it, to admitting you're in a state of denial. That sounds easier than it actually is, but that is the first step, to admit you're actually in it. When it comes to our emotions, the first step on the ladder of success, if you like, for overcoming this is to observe them, to be detached and observe our emotions. Gosh, I was quite angry there. Wasn't that interesting? If it's fear of failure that we can find ourselves succumbing to, then what we need to do is to put that fear into some sort of perspective, perhaps to chunk up the outcomes we need to achieve so that each step is less fearful and less huge. If it's fear of the unknown that we're succumbing to, then we need to make the unknown familiar. For instance, if you've decided you want to go out on your own and start your own consultancy, do research and make the unknown familiar. Fear of blame, well, there's only one solution to that, and that is be part of the solution. Use your experience to reach out with others and actually try and change the way that you are working. Be part of the solution, otherwise you're part of the problem. Engagement fatigue, well, that's if you really think the future is not going to be as the leaders or the change leaders say, then challenge it. But there comes a point where you're actually simply going to have to accept it. And lastly, our thoughts and beliefs. Again, stay detached, see them for what they are. They're simply thoughts, they're simply beliefs, they're not you. So, which of these do you tend to erect? And what will be your plan to overcome them?